They actually conducted a survey with 14 to 18-year-olds, and they said that a large chunk of the children, more than 50% children, could not read class 2 textbook in the regional language. Competence is basically a combination of knowledge, the ability to do something, and also having the right attitude. Lot of investment in terms of capital and lot of effort and commitment has to go into competency-based learning.
Yeah. Experiencing, totally experiential learning. Two important things. But now that you're saying about the competency, so actually the PBL is focused totally on building skills of all kinds. I mean, you look at from collaborative learning to interviewing to learning from observation, recording data.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Propeller Talks. Today we have special guests in Mrs. Rashmi Chari and Mr. Vishnu Kant, and we are going to talk about competency-based learning. But before we go ahead with the conversation, I would first want Mrs. Rashmi Chari to introduce herself, and then Vishnu, you introduce yourself.
Hi Mausam, hi Vishnu. Mausam, it's very difficult to introduce, you know. I don't know what to include. It's been a very long journey of 38 years. But the role that has stayed with me forever, and I think what I'll always be forever, is a teacher. So many stations, many different assignments, many tasks, many different institutions, but I think I'm first and foremost and last a teacher. So I think that's it.
Thank you. That reminds me, although my name is Vishnu Kant, as you know, and I work with teachers now. Earlier I taught children for a long time. I've been doing a lot of teacher training and leadership development. But interesting thing is that all my roles, what I do best is learn. So I'm actually, I find a learner's role in everything that I do. Yeah, and I'm extremely thrilled for us to sit down and share thoughts on what is happening new in education, and especially after the NCF came last year, 23. Where they have talked about competencies instead of usual learning objectives and so on. And I think it is an opportunity to explore that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
So let's start from the very base. For everyone to understand what we'll be talking about, let's first define what exactly competency-based learning is before we go into further depths.
Mausam, in order to define what a competency is, let me begin by giving you an example of what is not a competency. For many years, right from 2005 onwards, I have been pursuing these ACER reports by Pratham.
Okay.
You all must have gone through them. Every year after year, they would actually meet children and they would carry out some standardized tests and all, and the reports would show us that a class 9 child is unable to read content which is given in class 2 book or perform mathematics for class 3. And recently, the last report was even more, worrying, because they actually conducted a survey with 14 to 18-year-olds, and they said that a large chunk of the children, more than 50% children, could not read class 2 textbook in the regional language, could not do division sums, 3-digit division, 3-digit by 1-digit division for, this age group children who were actually in class 11, they could not do that division. So this shows the lack of competence to do these things. Competence is basically a combination of knowledge, the ability to do something, and also having the right attitude, the mental makeup to go ahead, to struggle with the problem, to resolve it. All those things together make you competent to do something. So competence are those abilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's if I understand it correctly, it's about building that capability where you can apply the knowledge what you are learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so knowledge, skills, and as you put it, the attitudes, okay, the inclinations, approach with which a student, when some situation is presented, what is the child's first response to it? So that is the attitude towards it. You can approach it with certain inquiry, with a question, okay, or you could simply justify it and move away, explain it away, or simply close your eyes and say, okay, I don't care about it.
This is undoable or something
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah.
So that is a very important part. So when we use the word competency, we are basically saying that these things which are visible in the child's behavior or in the learner's behavior. So knowledge is visible in terms of being able to apply it, being able to talk about it, being able to identify it, being able to compare, see it.
Yeah.
So those are also competencies, what you would call cognitive
The ability
skills.
to thinking skills.
Absolutely. But visible part of it.
Yeah, visible part.
So I think when we talk about competency-based learning, basically it's really nothing new, but I think the emphasis is that it is there for you to actually locate it, see it in the learner.
So what I understand from what you just said is that it is about seeing what they have learned actually being manifested in the reality, ground reality.
Yeah.
In the act of learning,
Right.
that should be visible. So if they are thinking, now how do you see thinking? You see them talking about it, you see them discussing, analyzing, evaluating something, passing their own opinion about it, making a judgment about it. So all that is thinking skill in action. Hands-on skills, doing something, being able to make something with your hand. Isn't it? And again, working in teams to be able to get along with people with whom you are working. So this is what makes somebody competent to do something. So competency is basically, attaining mastery to reach that stage where you become competent to do one thing.
Yeah.
And then progressing and building on the competencies.
Yeah. So you put it in front, put it for everybody to say, look, this is what we are talking about. This is what we are going to learn. So when you put it right in front for teachers to say, okay, this is what I'm teaching for, this is what I'm going to achieve, okay, this is what my children in the class are going to achieve. So that would be basically what, I think would be competency-based learning. That
I would want to make it more clear for myself and for everyone else also. And the way I'm going to do it is by comparing it to the current education pedagogy or system what we use in the school system which goes around. And we talk about it a lot that it's rote-based system, children memorize and children, they don't understand what is going on. So compared to the current system, how would we define the competency-based system? What differences in implementation part, if I say at the teacher level, would we see if we move from the rote-based learning to competency-based learning?
See, although as Vishnu said, there isn't very big difference where classroom procedures are concerned, but it's the whole attitude, the mindset, the approach that is different. Traditionally, what we have been following, me as I was taught in the school and how I taught as a teacher, was basically given a syllabus, I have to complete it, my children must pass in the exam with flying colors. Isn't it? Even as a principal, that used to be my, the kind of focus on. But competency-based learning is not about a class of children. It's about one child. It's about my learning journey and me becoming capable of doing one thing. So this whole thing, Vishnu, what a big difference in approaches, From 40 children, 50 children, you are coming to one child now. This is the also biggest challenge of competency.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very interesting that children are learning in groups, perhaps in the context is the class, but the learning is happening in the individual child.
Individual journey is there.
Absolutely. So when you focus on that, so your goal is also the children, the individual child learns, and when you are going to assess it, then you also come back to the focus, bring your focus back to the student, individual child. And of course, we are not saying one isolated child, we're saying each child being successful in picking up whatever skills or competencies that the teacher is intending them to teach.
But what I actually meant to say was that the teacher now has to consider a child as an individual who is learning. So to know where this child is, from where his journey is beginning, what is his current status of skills, how much can he do out of what I have to, make him learn, and then taking him forward from there. Now, if there are even the three of us who are sitting over here, three of us may know all about competency-based learning, but we are individually at different levels.
Yeah, and if you were to describe each one's thinking, they would be different, right? Lovely. I think it's a very...
this is the difference, this is the change in the mindset that has to be brought out right from the beginning. Let's not focus everything on the teacher. Let's not pass the buck to the teacher always. The management should understand, the head of the institution should understand the difference in the approach, and this whole infrastructure has to be created to support the teacher to do that. This is the change.
So that's the implementation part of it, that how do you make it happen
in the classroom.
But I still want to go back to emphasize it once again, because it's also a little bit of my own reorientation looking at it, that we are not saying that the class, the teacher treating a class of 40 children as a whole. As against a class of 40 individual children, right?
Absolutely.
So the focus is on individual learning, and whenever we describe the learning, then we describe learning of every individual child, each individual child.
And just one moment, Mawsum. Sure. I wanted to bring in differentiated instruction over here, and that it's very important to understand the learners. Let us do away with the factory model now. ये 50 बच्चे हैं, इनको हमने ये पढ़ा दिया, these worksheets I have done, these activities I have done, and these are the notes that I have given, and my children are ready for their final exams. Let's do away with that. So, what I mean to say is that each child is an individual, and you should know where he is vis-a-vis his ability, his literacy skills, his numeracy skills, his ability to analyze, his ability to implement. So all his different aspects of the individual, they have to be groomed, and the teacher should know where he is.
Absolutely.
So what I understand, I mean, while this conversation was going on, there are 2 points which came to my mind, which I think are different from the current education system. First is that the focus, because of this competency learning system, shifts from completing the syllabus, which used to be the focus earlier, to helping child build up competencies, every individual build up competencies in particular subjects or fields what we are talking about. And Second is in the way we assess these children. Correct me if I'm wrong. So these two things I see getting changed at the implementation level in schools.
You are absolutely right. Vishnu, shall I?
Yeah.
So, you know, when we followed the earlier model, we taught, we explained a topic, we did a lot of practice, we did activities, we did worksheets and everything, and then finally we assess the learners. Now with competency-based learning, the assessment is ongoing. It is while learning that you are constantly assessing the child to see what problem he is having in mastering a particular skill or in totally understanding a concept. So assessment is a part of learning. Assessment is for learning. So that is the major difference. Assessment is not something that happens as a unit test. Assessment is
or
not something as
a
terminal exam. It's not a semester exam. It's not a final exam. Those are also important. We'll have them. But assessment is while learning. Assessment happens every day. And it is a very normal part of it. It doesn't create stress in the learner. It's a part of learning. You know, it has to be planned and it has to be executed in a manner that it doesn't stress the child. Half the time the child doesn't even realize that he is being assessed, but the teacher, of course, is all the time at it and knows where the child is, making some innocuous notes over here, knowing where this particular child is and where is the issue and what I have to do more with him.
Yeah. So assessment is not separated from the learning process itself.
Yeah, not at all.
It is part of it,
of the learning.
happening along with it, as in when a learning is partially completed or so on, the teacher gives input or feedback.
Absolutely.
I mean, take the example of, let's say, you're learning to play flute. It's very tangible, concrete skills. And the teacher demonstrates something, and then you playing it. And the moment something goes wrong, the teacher stops. By gesture or so on, and then shows you that this is how to play or points out, and then you're learning. So what has happened? The teacher is teaching something, modeling it, because it's a skill the teacher has to model it. The learner is following it and learner is making mistake. The teacher is not waiting for some new process to happen. Right there is an assessment happening and the feedback coming.
Absolutely.
And then the correction is happening. So when we are talking about competencies, that we are actually basically saying that the teacher is constantly working with students to give feedback and make sure that the skills are built.
And the teacher has to accept and know that the children in my class are at different levels. I cannot have everybody at one level. I cannot hope to finish aaj ye mera lesson khatam ho gaya and then forget about it and move on to the next. So there are certain things which will continue, overlap with the next lessons as they happen, but the teacher should know about it. So the whole process of teaching, for keeping records, should change. So children's portfolios become more important over here, building up all those things.
Yeah, I see a big evolution in the role of a teacher from current pedagogy or current system to competency-based learning system. Currently, they are more focused on delivering the concept to the students.
To a mass of students.
Yes.
I think Rashmi brought a very interesting and hitherto unknown. I had not paid attention to that part of it, that you can treat children as a mass of, just one, maybe 40 heads, 40 pairs of eyes, but as one mass.
That's been happening on
I'm telling you, we were living in such a la-la land that we always thought, Acha, this is my course for this term, I have completed it, and not even sparing a thought to whether they have learnt it or not.
Exactly.
My entire focus of my teachers, after I became the director, then maybe the people We always thought like that. Course completion is a
Right.
job done,
Right.
and we would pat ourselves on the back for
Right.
that.
I
So,
think McDickey,
exactly.
the American author, uses a term very interesting.
Yeah.
He said coverage versus uncoverage. So the teachers for centuries have been obsessed with covering the syllabus, okay?
Covering the
completing the syllabus, covering it, okay?
Yeah.
Well, he's saying that teacher's role is really to uncover what is there, okay?
Absolutely.
Which is what children discover.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
That brings me to a very important question which I was about to ask. So the teacher's role evolve in a big way. They are now no more just the deliverer of the curriculum, what is there. They shift towards becoming an observer and observer to each of the student. So that is a big, I would say, behavioral shift also, which is required in teachers, which I see that a lot of training or a lot of skill building has to go into this. So you've worked with NCERT and CBSE at such close levels, and you've been always working with teachers for so long. What do you both see? How can we build this skill? How can we shift teachers from this model to this model, and that too at a good pace, so that the actual implementation starts?
Vishnu, before we actually talk about skill building of the teachers, which is very important, we need to see what is the change in the teacher's role, or how she's going to work differently now.
Absolutely.
What
and
more
from
is
there will
required?
emerge the skills and knowledge required,
Yeah.
right? So the teacher's role fundamentally is changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could say that what is the presence of the teacher doing in the class?
Yes.
Okay, so that's essentially
Right.
Yeah.
what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, the teacher now has to support all those 40 individual children in their own individual journeys.
Yeah.
Right.
So if I am learning how to write a composition, and I am at maybe out of 5 stages that my rubric spells out, I am at stage 3. So my teacher has to provide me material to bring me from stage 3 to stage 4. Suppose you, Mosam, are at stage 2, so she must have some worksheet or some activity plan which will bring you from 2 to 3. Similarly, if he is at stage 1, so from 1 to 2. So you see how much the teacher has to, teaching learning materials she has to create. This is a lot of work, and here, not to scare away the teachers or the principals, I would say technology can play such an amazing role.
Yeah.
You design your entire TLM materials and all that, and you use it with the help of technology. You make it available to the students with the help of technology, and as they learn, whether it is mathematics or science, it has to be incremental. So if they are able to do this stage, they automatically go to the next stage, and to the next stage, and to the next stage. So this is one aspect of it. Then keeping track of their performance. So how do you track their performance? So how they have fared in the formative assessments? You maintain a record of that, their grades and all. So you discuss those things with the children. So I would say that for capacity building of teachers, we will teach them everything, but first and foremost thing is teach them technology. That is very important.
So
to facilitate their work.
Yes. So when not just teachers, but even our own role as whatever we are doing, there are always two aspects of the any kind of task.
Yeah,
there are two aspects of it. One is the managerial aspect of it, or something that broadly what it is, where it is going, what it does, etc. You can see the trajectory. That's one part of it. Then the other part is, which however much you planned, you know that it will never go the way it is planned.
Yeah, that's the human
part. So the adaptive, the creative adaptive part of it. A lot of what can be the technical or managerial aspects can be taken care of by using technology. efficiency. It
Yeah.
will bring efficiency.
Absolutely.
And I think that is where the technology
Is useful.
is so important. It reduces the load, cognitive
workload,
load of the
yes, yeah.
teachers. It just, it's like if you know that, okay, my things are settled, I have this tool, this thing, so my mind is totally free to now focus on children.
Absolutely.
Which is something that no technology can do.
Yeah.
To assess each child,
Yeah.
to observe each child. You said that, it's a very beautiful word, that teacher becomes an observer. Teacher's predominant role, it becomes observer and assessor of children's learning.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that a teacher is planning can be, leveraged by using technology,
Yeah.
by using, ready materials.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, you talked about worksheets. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if the teacher,
And if it's all uploaded on a portal, so digital books and all those worksheets, to
Right.
have solutions like, some digital solution, teaching learning portal is there. So children access that, the entire teaching learning material is there, and as they are able to graduate from one level to another, they use those things.
Right. So you use the technology to make it more efficient.
Yeah,
what
learning
can be-
management systems.
What
yeah.
can be managed, okay, and then you free the teachers
Yeah.
to observe and assist the children.
Yeah.
Now, inherent in this is that you prepare the teachers for both the tasks,
Yeah.
to use the technology and to also observe. Assess the children.
Yeah.
And there are 40 children.
And plan
Each
for
one
them.
is different. Each one is different, and so the teacher cannot, I've seen a lot of teachers they're creative teachers and they teach well, but when it comes to writing, they will give questions and they will ask them to write answers.
Yeah.
Why? So it becomes very easy to check later on, tick, 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 tick. Each child is written just one answer. Now, there is a problem in it. What we are saying in the new or changed role of the teacher, each child is unique and therefore has to be seen separately from the rest. Now, that immediately increases the requirement of the teacher's skills. Really, really. I mean, and it's something that's a lifetime job actually. You have to keep learning, and keep making mistakes. Teachers do that, and it's okay, because today I'm not so accurate, tomorrow I'll become a little more
Absolutely.
accurate. So it's very important.
Yeah.
So yes, we should use technology, and the teacher's role, and of course teachers can benefit a lot from what is available in terms of designed, structured curriculum that are available, in
Yeah.
terms of activities that are available,
available.
in terms of materials that are available to engage children.
It is amazing how much material and how much technology is available.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't
Absolutely.
have to create everything ourselves.
Absolutely.
There are very good materials that are graded properly, and they are
Absolutely.
suited, they are customized to your country and your learning environment, the level and of your children. So
Yeah.
acquire those. I mean, free
Absolutely.
children free teacher for the actual job that the teacher needs to do,
Yeah.
rather than making them do everything from scratch and them not being able to do anything
Absolutely.
properly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And built over decades of hard work
and
by a lot of experts.
tried out with thousands of
Absolutely.
children, and based on their feedback, modified and improved always. So these are great materials which are
Right.
already available.
That reminds
Yeah,
me.
and one more thing, Vishnu. These are
So
my
I
concerns.
love this, the way the conversation is evolving.
Having been in education for 38 years, there's so many things that keep on popping in my concerns that keep on popping in my mind is that there has to be an alignment in the approach of the teacher. You cannot have one particular pedagogy based on competency-based learning and your assessment is absolutely
Right.
of a different style.
Right.
Yeah.
The example that you gave, so just see, when you are beginning right from the hierarchy of objectives. So what are you planning to teach, or what are you planning that your children should learn? How will they practically look when they learn it? Okay?
Yeah.
Then how will you achieve this whole process of learning? What are the TLMs? What is the whole process? Then how are you going to assess them? So this whole unified approach has to be there.
Yeah, aligned.
Alignment.
I think congruence is the word
Yes.
that we use, that they
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
congruence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think NCF 23 has used a new terminology called
Curriculum goals.
learning. Learning curriculum goals.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the curriculum goals have been
Learning
split
standards.
into
Yeah.
competencies.
Yeah, yeah.
And then each competency, and which is very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And each competency then is split into multiple outcomes, learning outcomes at different
Yeah,
grade level.
absolutely.
Now, so what we're saying that, and each outcome will have to be assessed. So they have given some in the NCF, they have given some examples.
Yes, they have.
But we will have to work. Teachers will have to work out that a village child will probably demonstrate the same competency very differently from a city.
Yes.
So therefore, the assessment changes.
Yeah,
You know how you assess
yeah,
children in
yeah,
different
yeah,
contexts.
yeah.
But fundamentally, the teacher has to be constantly kept in mind that this is the learning outcome that I have to see whether it's there in children or not.
Yeah.
And if they don't,
Yeah.
then there has to be a very honest acceptance that children have not learned.
Vishnu, you just now mentioned such a beautiful thing, that a village child will be able to demonstrate his learning in a different way than a rural, an urban
A city
child.
kid, yeah, urban kid.
You know, this is the beauty of competency-based learning, Lawson, that this is actually, this kind of learning system can be implemented everywhere. It can be implemented in a village school. It can be implemented in some B class or a C class city. It can be in an ultra modern city. So in metros, because we are talking about skills of people.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
earlier, the earlier curriculum that we used to implement, there were some portions of it which could not be implemented in the rural India. Children would not be able to make sense of it at all.
Yeah, yeah.
They would be so theoretical and they would be so far away from the life of those children. But here we are talking about competencies. So if I'm teaching, literacy, or if I'm teaching listening, speaking, reading and writing to a child in a village, or if I'm teaching them in Delhi or Bombay somewhere, so these are skills that can be taught in any place, and their ability to do these things
So would you say,
with different materials, it's possible.
yeah, so would you say that competencies, when we define
Yeah.
competencies, they are decontextualized?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So which makes them universal.
Yeah,
Which makes them universal.
Yet
That
they
can-
are learned in a context,
They're
in the
learned
local context.
Absolutely.
Right.
Local
Yeah.
context, available context,
the beauty.
using the available material. So I think that brings us to a very important thing, that this whole problem of the earlier, when MLL came in 1990, there were a lot of problem, because it's like the skills were fused with how children will express or show. So then it gets it very difficult, and that were probably to some extent a recipe for rote learning.
Yeah.
This can be memorized and reproduced by children in a certain way.
Because the whole nation, all of us thought that way,
Yeah. So
okay,
there was
yeah.
thankfully things changed.
Changed.
So I think it's important to understand that the competencies themselves are decontextualized. They will grow in context. They will be developed in the context of
Yes.
the child.
Yeah.
And once learnt, they're decontextualized. That also then makes it available for children or for the learner to apply it in different contexts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
So the
then-
real life connect is very, very real in competency-based
Right.
learning. Competencies will always be tried out in the context, and the beauty of this system is that it is multidisciplinary. So when a child is applying his competence of being able to have a conversation about plants that are growing, so he is also talking science, the growth of the plants. So whatever he's discussing in the context of life. He's working in the context of life. You take project-based learning, for example, very much a part of this whole system.
So, which is very beautiful. Now we are acknowledging the multidisciplinary aspect of life, the way we, deal with life all the time. So, what I see in this context now is that the role of standardized testing would diminish significantly, and that portfolio building where each child, over a year, we'll be able to see how he's or she has built up these skills over a period of year and multiple years, that will grow. So do you think that this thing from NCRT, again, because you've worked with them from NCRT and CBSE side, how do you see this thing happening at school level? Especially, again, coming back to, because teachers play such an important role in the actual implementation. So how do we see that happen? For school heads who might be watching this podcast at some point of time, so some tips for them which they can actually,
See, I personally feel that there is so much we can do at our level, rather than looking at apex bodies for all instructions, because they are looking at it pan-India, whereas we know our children better, we know our working conditions better. The solutions that we can devise for our children are the best solutions. So if NCF tells us to have portfolios, now it is up to us. If I am the principal and I have my team of teachers, I discuss with them what kind of portfolios do we want to build. And the portfolios are going, competency-based learning is being implemented right from foundational stage. We are talking about literacy and numeracy as skills of children. Okay, so what kind of portfolios, what do you expect there to be in the portfolio? What kind of portfolio the teacher has to build up? So those decisions let us take for ourselves. I remember, Vishnu, years back, maybe almost 10 to 12 years back, I met a professor from the Open University in London. At that time, I was in charge of the teacher training of all the DAV schools. So there were 50,000 teachers that we had to look into, and a huge task. And I was designing, regional training centers all over India. So at that time I met him and I discussed with him, and he gave me a beautiful suggestion of having e-portfolios. He says, with 50,000 teachers, if you want to track their growth, why don't you think of building e-portfolios? Okay, so randomly out of that also, if every month you manage to go through maybe 50 portfolios randomly, maybe one from each school, you will know how your teachers are progressing. So, so many, if you have classrooms with large number of children, think of e-portfolios building up. In senior classes have e-portfolios. In smaller classes you have, physical portfolios which are collection of a student's artwork and compositions and illustrations, designs and all those.
All the work that they're producing. Both. I mean, the portfolios, when we talk about portfolios, we talk about portfolios of two things. One is that portfolio that show children's engagement in learning. There are activities happening, and that can be recorded in the multiple form, and that show that children are doing something. Children
engaging.
are working on something. So engagement. Now, that may not necessarily be representative of exact learning, but broadly we know that if children are engaged, then they will be learning. The second part of the portfolio is recording children's learning, actually where they have written things that they have learned, applied the concepts that they have learned into different tasks you have presented, made things in terms of products that they have done, photographs of them and so on. So the portfolios are to that extent very authentic, very real, as long as they are done in an authentic way.
Absolutely.
By the children, not by the parents or by the shopkeeper somewhere.
I so agree with you. This should
Right.
not be a special exercise कि चलो आज portfolio बनाना है, आज आप करो. So
And-
that
yeah.
announcement would kill the whole thing, you know.
True.
So
Yeah.
whenever you have given an assignment to children, out of that you select. You have given 3-4 assignments. Out of that, you ask the child
You
to
use some,
select.
you use the
So-
some. In fact, we recently started adding in our curriculum. Some school asked that we really want to encourage. We want to encourage the teachers to use
Build their
portfolio for
portfolio.
assessment.
Yeah.
But merely saying or training them doesn't work. What structure can you offer them so that it becomes easier for them? One of the things that we have learned over the years working with schools is that training is one part which is important, okay, but and there are books or curriculum that is already ready, that is one part. But if you want to make sure that teachers do something that you really want, then you provide a structure. You provide a calendar and you provide whatever tools that you need.
Absolutely.
Okay? So for that we had said that the curriculum, the Propeller curriculum, we follow a certain cycle of learning. Okay. And where children have learned something, they put into tasks, apply. Now those are all part of the books. And the question the teachers asked in the lab is that in the book, how do we use it in the portfolio, right? So earlier the many schools have done it. They would take photocopy of that particular page and put
And
it.
put it in the portfolio.
We thought maybe let's introduce it's a reproduced thing. Now in education, what is reproduced has very little meaning. Okay, frankly, it is very little meaning. It's almost, for me, is like an opportunity we have lost for creating something new.
Right.
As curriculum creators, we look at it that let us not repeat anything. Let's use every new opportunities. So what we realize that, okay, so why don't we, for practice after children have done multiple practice, let's create separate sheets, 2-3 sheets or 1 sheet, which are not part of the book but printed separately. And it is with the children. So after the teacher has done the rigmarole of teaching and practicing application, etc., she gives that for children to fill it. Right then and there inside the classroom. It gets collected and put in the portfolio. So you didn't have to photocopy something they have already done. It's original work of children. Maybe printed on a slightly thicker paper so that it can go separately in the file. So providing structures, providing resources, these are part of supporting the teachers.
That is also very important.
Absolutely. So that they are free from these mechanical tasks to focus on things that none of us can do.
Vishnu, here I would like to add another something that I had viewed in a classroom. In a school that I was visiting. It was an IB curriculum school, and they had similar, this Propeller curriculum that you're talking about. They had similar procedures. The teacher gave them assignments and then said that you choose which one you are going to put in the portfolio. So their interest enhanced like anything. Each of them, they were vying to do, as best as they could, and in the end, they were poring over which one to give. Which is my best work, So there is so much metacognition happening, awareness of your own work. How can I do it better? So if that kind of enthusiasm you can bring in the classroom, it's half the battle.
So do you think
it's just connected to this? There's also a little slip of paper that we give to teachers as well as students to stick to whatever paper they have put. Which basically what I want you to look on in this.
Oh wow.
Okay, so
I appreciate that.
Something.
It's like advocacy of your own work.
Absolutely. I've done something.
I've
this
done
is
this.
what is really good. So I wanted to look at this. Okay.
It's so much pride in your own work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so research everywhere has supported this. That more and more children are aware. Okay, the self-assessment. Better their learning is going to be.
Student agency is the
absolutely.
best.
So in fact, Hattie's visible learning research put self-assessment of children right on top of all the
Of course.
effects.
Yes.
It is the highest effect.
Yeah.
And as children, grow more, from primary to the middle and so on, they become more and more aware of what is the quality of work they're producing.
Yes.
And this kind of portfolio, this kind of what I want you to see on this sheet, or why I feel that this is so
Yes.
good, so justification of it, or this only builds stronger and stronger self-assessment in them.
Absolutely.
So this
and at
brings-
the other end, when the teacher, her role becomes so important. Most of the time we as teachers are so much in habit of saying, this is right, this is
Yeah,
wrong.
right.
Yeah,
So
right.
the teacher has to know that there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No,
There is
in
nothing
fact,
wrong.
that's
And so
very beautiful addition. Very beautiful addition. That how will you remove this poison of teacher intruding with her opinion?
Yes, the toxicity.
And one more thing, just to add to this, the parent angle, because the parent has also is now accustomed to fine-tuning children's work, what they take home.
Parents are very aware now.
Yeah. So just because they want the work to be perfect, they help children, better the work what children have done, which I personally feel should not be the case. What children are
Actually, you feel
presenting.
parents help the children
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
their homework.
Yeah.
Oh, they sit and
Yeah.
they sit and
That's
Yeah.
also a problem.
Yes.
write
Okay.
it.
Yes.
They will make the projects. You ask them to do something. The kids, parents get
They
them to
even
do.
buy it from the market, I
True.
hear.
So
Yeah.
how do we see,
in this
helping
system,
them.
less and less of that is possible, because most of this has to happen in the classroom.
No, even if it is
Yeah.
happening, so this is how you change culture of a school.
Yeah.
And I think this is where, I think once this begins to happen in the school, teachers will begin to see, as you bring the authenticity of children's work into this, and somewhere communicate to parents that what is more valuable is
Right.
authentic work of children and not perfect work of
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful thing to say.
Yes.
So, because it is this authenticity that is the
Because
ground
that is the real work of that child.
Absolutely,
That has
absolutely.
come out of him.
And in
Yeah.
fact, probably sooner, so people, parents will begin to understand that no, this brings my perfect work is no value to child's learning.
that.
Absolutely, my going and buying something has no value. In fact, to some extent, getting marks is of no value.
Absolutely.
What is valuable is what my child was able to do yesterday,
Yeah.
and what my child has learnt and improved today. So
Absolutely.
this improvement is my net gain.
So, Mawsam, training of parents, orientation of parents is equally important.
Absolutely. That is where this question came
Yeah,
from.
yeah,
Because over the years, parents have gotten into that mindset that the work, because the society has become marks oriented. So whatever project is taken home, instead of child, most of the time parents do. So getting back to the parents and
Yeah.
helping them understand that this is not something what is required. So that also is an equally important part.
Absolutely. And empathy for your child, empathy for your student, to understand his journey, give them time, encouragement, all these things are very important part
Yeah.
of the learning process.
Right.
Don't rush it.
Right.
If you let him learn peacefully now, the remaining parts, the parts that are going to come after this, they will be easier for him to pick up. But
Yeah.
if you rush this part of it, push him through it, then the other ones will be unattainable.
Yeah, I think this is where educating the parent is one part of it,
Yeah.
and the role of what some time back you said, rubrics, okay,
Yeah.
becomes important.
Yes.
So if you have oriented the parents that okay, for any skill or competency that the child has to attain, the attainment had to happen at various levels.
Stages, yeah.
And it is not that if the child is here today, that is frozen.
Yeah.
The child is constantly moving
Yeah.
to the higher level of proficiency in
Yeah.
any competency whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So once we have done this, then probably sharing a rubric along with children's work or report that we give assessment, enlightens the parents. It's okay, my child is here today, but I can see where the next step it is. And if at all I can help, then this is where
I guess these rubrics can be a very important tool to shift the parents' focus from comparative assessment of their own child vis-a-vis other children to the work of their own child over a period of time and how it has evolved.
It's important for teacher also, the rubrics.
Absolutely, but for parent, because if I see the parents are today, they compare, oh, my child,
percentage pe फंसे हुए हैं
exactly,
parents,
so they get out of that trap.
And they will understand the learning process. See the advantage. The moment the parent will have a look at the rubric, he will understand what are the different levels or stages my child will have to undergo in order to achieve mastery over this skill or competency.
I think
so
it is this trajectory that is important to make.
And it becomes a very scientific process of understanding rather than, just assuming ki 90% QI or 95% QNI, which is all very abstract in
so communicating to the parent that how the marks what your child is getting is not important. This trajectory what he's
so
going
you have
through,
to learn how to read the rubrics. How to read the rubrics is level 1 to level 5. Let's say the children are learning, and there is a constant movement happening. In fact, in one of my when my daughter was going to school and I was called for a teacher parent meeting. And I went about a month later. I was traveling and I couldn't reach. So, but I still had to go to meet the teacher, and she gave me the assessment of my daughter, and she said, "Vishnu, you coming 1 month late." So in this interim 1 month, Keta has learnt many things more. So this report is not true today. It's a very interesting thing.
So you also need to tell that which school she was going to, because that is also important. The context is very important.
So good schools would always honor or put this that there is a time where the child is learning, and it is neither permanent nor it has stopped. Everything is growing, and this is one thing. If the parents internalize this, most of insecurities will go away.
That your child is still learning. It's not that with the final exam the learning stops.
One pronunciation wrong, they think, oh my God, my child's career is over.
The heaven is falling.
I've seen or I've interacted with parents who say that my child is not going to the school during summer vacation, so he is not learning anything.
I'm telling you, there are times when we have introduced Propel's learning, the language curriculum to schools, where children are already doing something. And then many times parents have come back, the feedback has come, earlier the child was able to write so many words. Now the child is making mistakes. Now, this is very interesting. Making mistakes in the spelling of the words that he was writing correctly 6 months back. This is very interesting. Now, it is worrisome when the feedback comes. So when you look at it, then you realize it's very interesting. So when you look at the language trajectory of how children learn, first they will learn the convention of some word that you have given them. Receptive learning. Flower, FLOWER, flower. They are just copying what is available. That's what the child was doing.
Copying or rote learning.
The moment Propel curriculum is introduced, they are encouraged to make connection between the sound and symbol. And then when they are making connection between sound and symbol, and then they are writing, then they say, flower, FLR. So they write FLR,
so
and the parent inventive spelling. And the parent, oh my God, wrong spelling. Not realizing that here the child is using
applying his own mind.
Yes.
applying, thinking,
Right.
and writing only those letters,
Sounds
alphabets.
which he is
absolutely,
able to,
absolutely.
yeah.
So
Figure.
from rote to inventive
Yeah.
to
Right.
eventually going to conventional spelling.
Right.
Now, once as a teacher you see it and you're cool. I know the child has moved from rote to
Right.
inventive,
Right.
and you are celebrating. And the same fact
Parent
is giving the parent heart attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that communication between teacher and
Anji.
parent
Yeah.
becomes very, very important.
But Mossi,
Communication
coming back,
and training.
Yeah, coming back to your role of apex bodies, you know, I personally feel this transition of beginning to use rubrics is so great that here the schools require support. Our system, in Indian system, we have never ever used rubrics.
Yeah,
True.
We have always given marks based
True,
on, you
true.
know, whatever our
And
understanding
more
of it
in
is.
case of schools which are based in probably tier 3 towns or rural schools.
I'm telling you, in Delhi schools also, nobody
Absolutely.
uses rubrics.
Yeah.
So
Marks or
either making
comments.
rubrics available for each competency or training teachers to build their own. This is
Yeah.
one area where the
Absolutely.
entire nation should be worrying about, thinking about,
Yeah.
if we are serious about implementing competency-based learning.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of struggle in this. Teachers and parents are so frozen into this mark system.
Yeah.
That is so in the second year of our teachers work with schools, we introduce rubrics based on Solo taxonomy. Solo
Okay.
it's an Australian research. It's called Structure of Observable Learning Outcomes. Solo. Okay, it's very beautiful, very well. 5 levels of learning that happens, and very well. I mean, I think the only kind of framework which combines qualitative and quantitative.
Okay.
Okay, the Solo. So we use that framework for writing rubrics. We have
that's
written it for the
wonderful.
whole curriculum,
Yeah.
all complete. So we introduce it in the second year. First year, teachers are not making it. So they need to first.
Yeah.
Learning has to happen. Some assessment happens. Next year we introduce. Even after doing that, when you have first level of struggle with teachers. No, school heads then struggles. No, marks don't really say anything about child's learning. Rubrics are good. Then comes the biggest struggle, the parents. So a lot parents are totally, this thing, it doesn't say where the child is, because they want to see in numbers
They want
where
to
my
understand
child
numbers.
is.
Right.
Because
Mix-
number is something that they can compare with. They can pass
They
a
can
judgment
connect
on the
कि,
child.
हाँ, यहाँ पे है,
किस
यहाँ
rank
पे है,
पे है.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
Because they have also gone through the same
Yes,
journey.
I mean, not
themselves.
blaming anybody.
Yeah.
The whole nation has
True.
been reared on
So
that
you
only.
work, you train, then
Yeah.
it takes time. So some schools have found
So I'm
this
glad
thing.
to know that
कि
you
we
have a
will also
system,
give
yeah.
we will give marks as well as rubrics. Then there was complaint that okay, the moment you give marks, then no parent reads rubrics. So you're constantly struggling. How do we do this?
So
you don't give marks,
I
then
guess
parents
when
don't connect.
apex bodies are now talking about it, it will bring in some difference. At least schools would be more confident of talking about it.
But
to,
I was hoping
the
that
parents.
NCF would talk more about these things.
Yeah.
But I don't see much of it. Maybe at a later date, some work
think-
will begin to happen on
Yeah,
this.
I think as they go into the implementation.
Yeah, but we
and
should not
hopefully-
wait for it to
No, no,
happen.
no, no,
From there, we should,
absolutely.
all these initiatives,
I
with
don't
every
think-
minute the child is growing and
Absolutely.
our time is
No, I
moving
don't
on.
think
Yeah.
civil society is anyway wait. It's just
Yeah.
that they're talking about project-based learning now.
Yeah.
We have been doing it,
So
Absolutely.
I wanted to
2007-8
come to
onwards.
this question. So we are talking about competency-based learning,
Yeah.
and in fact, we've been working in project-based learning for so long. So how do you see project-based learning getting aligned with competency-based learning, or what role PBL can play in competency-based learning?
Right. So, so Propel has a very well developed project-based learning, structured project-based learning projects. Okay, PBL projects we call them. and they are all multidisciplinary. So there are two defining features of project-based learning that we have. One is that it is integrated multidisciplinary content, and the second is this is done through experiencing, totally experiential learning. So the two important things. But now that you're saying about this competency, so actually the PBL is focused totally on building skills of all kinds. I mean, you look at from collaborative learning to interviewing to learning from observation, recording data, collating, discussing, filtering, organizing, making sense of things, presenting, researching, making new things, applying into a new task, creating products. So whole lot of things children do in project-based learning. Now, while they are doing it, they are working, together in groups. They are going out and interviewing people, talking to people, actually going into the context. So if they have to understand marketplace, then they go to market with pen and paper. They make notes to discuss. They call up people. They stand with them. They watch, make a record, write it. They interview. They ask questions. So everything is very real, authentic, doing. While doing so, in groups, individually, in the class with teachers, they are constantly building their knowledge, their skills, which are visible. And you can actually, the interesting part of project-based learning is that you can see the movement within a week's time. Not just that, okay, you do it and at the end of the month or so. You can do it right there, second day, third day. You can see how the child, a day child, the first day, the child is extremely, have very poor confidence. How will I go?
Self-conscious.
What will I ask? Self-conscious, not able to ask questions. The moment they go, you same child you see second day.
So acquiring mastery.
Absolutely.
So
going out,
becoming
much
better at
more
doing
confidence,
something.
asking.
Absolutely.
Just one day. In one day you can see visible changes. I mean, time and again the teachers have given me feedback that how project-based learning, energizes even the weakest children who don't participate. Year after year after year, teachers have struggled to get the weak children out of their shells. To get the low confidence children to gain confidence. It's very easy to teach the brighter ones. Okay, they pick up, and a lot of schools make pomp and show. Oh, this child has done this. They never talk about those children who remain in the background, in dark corners of the classrooms, never coming out. PBL achieves exactly that. They get them out of their shadows. They get them out of their. Then the PBL gets them out of their shells. They become confident. They become. I've seen teachers doing it. A very low
confidently using their competencies, their skills.
Absolutely.
So project-based learning is an intrinsic part of competency-based learning, because project-based learning or doing projects in the class gives the children an opportunity to perform.
The learning becomes active.
Absolutely.
So instead of calling it project-based learning, so we just say that while doing competency-based learning, the teacher has to plan a lot of projects. The projects give children an opportunity to use their competencies and skills and knowledge in a real life context, isn't it? So these are not two different things. In fact, they are intrinsically linked and they are one.
It's like a means and end.
Absolutely.
So project-based learning, the projects are means, the medium.
You cannot take out project-based learning from competency-based learning. It is an intrinsic part of it.
Absolutely.
It has to be, projects have to be done in order
To build the
to build your
competency.
competencies, to achieve
Right.
mastery over it, to even demonstrate that you have learned.
Especially
Yeah.
when it comes to seeing relationship between multiple disciplines.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
how the light, I mean, there is a chemical part of light, there is a physical part of light, or electricity.
Yeah.
There are a whole lot of things
Yes.
that are happening.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so in PBL they are able to see it. They are able to actually see the same reality, from let's say the angles of different subjects.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Very
And it's all
interesting.
integrated. They get an
Absolutely.
opportunity to do it all together.
Yeah.
So there is no difference between project-based learning and competency-based learning. The one is the practical aspect of it,
Okay.
And then assessment also, performance-based assessment. Projects are very much a part of performance-based assessments. Yeah.
In project-based learning, when the project ends, it ends in what we call culmination event.
Yeah.
In that, children showcase everything that they have done
Absolutely.
and they have learned.
Yeah.
So in fact, the structure we have for younger classes, I did this and I learned this.
Yeah.
So I do and I learn.
That's beautiful.
It is also it also good that
Yes.
distinguishes that doing is doing,
Yeah.
and you may learn from it, you may not learn
Yeah.
from it. Okay.
And Vishnu, the sad part is that we never give the children an opportunity to demonstrate, display their knowledge.
Yeah. So they
And
do
that
this.
is why our children never have a sense of pride in what they have
Absolutely.
learned.
Thank you for saying that.
It becomes a
because
chore. of
Culmination
True that.
event
Yeah.
does exactly
Absolutely.
that. They present their work to the
Yeah.
visiting parents.
Yes.
Parents come.
Parents
Children share them.
Yeah.
Show it to them what they
I'm
have done.
so
through
glad that
skits,
Propeller is
through,
doing that. Yeah, these are the
through-
best learning practices. Yeah.
through skits, through presentations, through demonstrations, through exhibitions, through charts, etc.
Yeah.
And children are there to
Yes.
take them. They, in fact,
And
we
every child participates in that.
Yeah,
all,
Yeah.
not just every child
Culmination,
participate,
yeah.
but every child.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I keep telling schools, that it never goes wrong, because it's children's events.
Yes.
Parents come.
Yeah.
They see children's work.
And so reassuring for parents.
Absolutely.
See their-
And their own children take them around to show what they have done, what is their chart, which is their exhibition, etc. And because it is children presenting, parents applaud unconditionally.
Oh.
Good, bad,
Yes.
ugly. Nobody
Yeah.
assesses that
Yeah.
day.
Yes.
There is no evaluation by parents that day.
And how much
that's
they
the good
learn
part.
about their child. Otherwise,
True.
parents and
Oh, yeah.
children, they are strangers
And
in a home.
I have
with
heard.
only expectations in between.
I have heard from parents. I have
Yeah.
heard from parents कि ये पिछले 4 महीने से ये करता था, वो करता, तो मुझे समझ में आता था क्या करता
हाँ.
अभी पता चला इतना सारा काम किया है,
Yeah.
इतना सीखा है.
Right.
I mean, it is so
It's
interesting.
building of a relationship between parent and
Absolutely.
child.
I've
Respect
attended
for
couple of
your own child. Yeah.
have to
combination
tell-
events
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
And I've seen children, they are a completely different energy that
Yeah,
day.
of course.
The excitement they have, the way they are interacting with not just their parents but everybody. There's that pride in
village
them.
children.
Yeah, village
Poor
children.
Village children.
Yeah.
True.
In fact,
So that's why you said no, competency-based learning can be implemented anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
The trustees who were visiting, they said that I visited the school a few months back, and these children are not speaking at all. And today they are talking because they have done it. They can talk.
Yes.
They don't have to memorize.
Yeah.
They have done it. They can just talk from experience.
Right.
Another thing that you said, and it's very beautiful, and I really like it, although I don't know which competency it falls in, but it's a very much of learning about how project-based learning invigorates relationships between children. So we used to work with a large school, Bhartiya Global School in Greater Noida.
Yeah.
They were doing project-based learning, and once I was visiting there just to meet
Naturally,
teachers or so
yeah.
on. And I entered the principal's room, and there was the principal, and there was a mother sitting in front of her.
Yeah.
She was crying.
Oh.
And the moment I entered, I saw the nurse. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then the principal called me, Vishnu, come. I said, no, please, because the
Yeah.
mother was crying. No, come, we're talking about project-based learning. Okay, then I came. So then the principal shared that the mother is not crying. This is a happiness.
She is
Yeah, tears of happiness.
Yes, this was I think class 2 or grade 2 or grade 3, where they had they have a project called My Family. And in My Family, children are doing a lot of exploration about what their families used to be, what kind of things they used to do
Wow.
then, what kind of things they do now.
Yeah.
So in one activity, they have to go and ask their mothers, what kind of stories your mother used to tell you, which you tell now, okay?
Yeah.
So while the mother was sitting there,
Yeah.
she was so like moved,
Yeah.
like he's asking. So she began to tell her
Wow.
child the stories that her mother used to tell.
Yes.
And in doing so, she started crying because, remembering
Right.
mother. But what she felt, she shared that I was so happy. There is so much of connection in family members
Yeah.
when the children are coming. What were your mothers like? What were your parents? What kind of stories did there happen? What kind of dreams you used to have?
Yeah.
What kind of food you used to have when you were children? There's a whole lot of very beautiful remembrance
Yeah.
and connection.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of parents, find very touchy. Yeah.
True.
Touching.
True. Amazing.
So I guess we've exceeded the time we thought of. I'll just culminate the talk, but before that, I would want both of you to put some points forth for schools and school heads who would want to implement competency-based learning in their schools, or who are aspiring to, walk on this path now or probably a little later.
So
Yeah.
there are, especially the school heads, they have a very, very important role. The entire planning of competency-based learning, how to implement in the school, will have to be done by the school head. The first step, Vishnu, and I feel very strongly about it, is that the principal, the head of the school, must learn and know about every aspect of competency-based learning.
Absolutely.
Because the principal is the instructional leader of the school. Most of the time when the reforms happen, we pass it off to the teacher. And then we criticize the teachers ne nahi kiya, and then huge committees are set up by Government of India and things like that, and at every forum the teacher is blamed for the lack of implementation or the poor implementation. I have always felt very strongly about it. I feel that everyone has a role to play. Let's not pass on the buck to the teacher. What about the managements? What about the principal? What about the parents? Everybody must understand and support the teacher, facilitate the teacher in the new system that we are entering.
Yeah.
Isn't
Absolutely.
it? And competency-based learning, it requires a lot of change. It requires, first of all, getting into the new system, aligning the whole learning process to the new system of competency-based, replacing, different assessments with rubrics and bringing in portfolios, then maybe later on building skill inventories and things like that. All that work requires help of experts, to work with teachers. Those people have to be brought in. So the vision of the managements need to understand that we are entering a different age of education.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the teachers have to be supported, infrastructure have to be built. We are ending the program, otherwise I had a lot of anecdotes from Australia that I would have shared with you, that how competency-based
So
learning...
please, you can share at least a couple of them.
Okay, maybe some
Yeah.
other time, Mosam, not now. We are ending the program now. So, lot of investment in terms of capital and lot of effort and commitment has to go into competency-based learning.
Yeah. I think there isn't much to add. But I think I want to underline the significance of this change for school leaders. I mean, there are investments of time, effort, very important. But if it was not so, it would be a very cheap proposition to make.
Absolutely.
I mean, why,
Yeah.
why would you want to do something which is worthless?
Why would national
right?
curriculum frameworks be written or something
Yeah,
which was
so-
not worthwhile?
Yeah. So because it is worth it, you do it.
Yes.
It requires commitment. It requires work. Yeah. But I think the dividends are huge.
Yeah.
I think once we are able to bring focus to actual skills or visible skills or competencies at the center stage of education process, that's one important. So you learn it. So once you bring it, that is what will become visible.
Yeah.
That is where then we'll be creating students or children who can go out of the school very confident that I know that I can do this. Right now, what they will say, they are not confident and they say, oh, this is what I was taught. The language is not, this is what I know I can do. The language is, this is what I was taught. This is what So, from listening to parents, teachers and just remembering some part of it, to having confidence of their own skills and knowing that I can do this, or knowing that I don't know this and this, for this bit I have to go to this particular course and do it. That's part of learning. Knowing that actually paves the way for new learning. So I think the dividends are huge for for a school preparing for new age, especially when we're talking about the sustainable
Development goals.
development goals and 21st century skills. I think it is our responsibility for to build the children to be able to sustain in a chat GPT dominated society, where no knowledge is hidden, everything can come.
Yeah.
Everything can be thrown on your screen by one simple prompt, which takes 1 second to put. The skills is what ChatGPT will not be able to give, which is what we have to build.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And these skills involve the thinking skill, the socio-emotional, all kinds of the life skills and the 21st century skills. This is what we have to now, learn, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much,
welcome.
Rashmi ji, for such, so
I
much
thoroughly
time
enjoyed
of
myself.
yours. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was very interesting and
I got a
engaging
few
discussion.
fresh insights from you,
Thank
hearing
you.
you. So I'm very happy about
But
it.
it was wonderful to know that you are doing so much work, Vishnu. I mean, that can really handhold a lot of schools and teachers into, sliding very smoothly into and transitioning to a competency-based learning ecosystem.
Thank you.
Thank